bread does not have to be complicated. We are making a cheddar and herb loaf today, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that step by step. So let's go. We need 175 grams of active sourdough starter. This is Cinderella. She was fed last night and she is ready to go this morning. So you want a digital scale, we're gonna zero it out and weigh in grams, 175 grams of sourdough starter. Next, we're gonna zero our scale. We're adding 325 grams of room temperature filtered water. We're gonna zero our scale again, and we're adding 475 grams of unbleached all-purpose flour. And then we're gonna zero our scale one more time, and we're adding 10 grams of salt. I'm using kosher salt today, a little bit more coarse than table salt. Okay, then we're gonna remove our bowl from our scale. We're gonna use our dough whisk. You can use a spatula if you don't have a dough whisk. You can also use your hand. And we're gonna mix till everything's combined. We're gonna end up with a shaggy dough. It's ready to go. We're gonna cover it, and I'm gonna cover it with a shower cap so that it doesn't dry out, and we're gonna let it sit on the counter for 30 minutes. We'll come back in 30 minutes and start our first set of stretch and folds. 30 minutes has passed. It's time for our first set of stretch and folds. I like to use a plastic bench scraper, very bendable. And we're just gonna get in here underneath the dough and then use our bare hands. We're gonna stretch, pull it up. So first set of stretch and folds, pulling it up, folding it over. It is quite sticky. Don't be afraid of that. It's going to strengthen over time as we're doing these stretch and folds. So 2, I'm gonna go around the bowl twice for this first set to really start letting this gluten build up. And 8, you can use 2 hands. I have a cut on my other hand, so I'm not using that hand today. Okay, so first set of stretch and folds is done. Yes, it's quite sticky. We're gonna cover it, come back in 30 minutes for our next set. Another 30 minutes has passed. We're ready for our next set of stretch and folds. This is our second set of stretch and folds. Grab the dough, stretch it up, fold it over. I'm gonna do this every quarter turn. Grab, fold, over. Third turn, grab, fold over. Fourth turn, grab it, fold over. I'm gonna cover it up and we're gonna let it rest another 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, we'll do our third set of stretch and folds. So we're on to our third stretch and folds, and here's where we're going to add in our inclusions. So I'm adding grated cheddar cheese and I am adding some seasonings. We're using thyme, parsley, oregano, and basil, and I've done a half teaspoon of each. You can add more if you want your dough to be more herby tasting. So for cheddar and herb, and we're gonna add the inclusions in now during stretch and fold so that they get dispersed all throughout the dough. So we're gonna sprinkle our herbs over top, and we're just gonna basically dump our cheese in. I like my bread pretty cheesy. This is just kind of leftover cheddar cheese that we had in the fridge. So we're gonna dump that all in here. And then as we do the stretch and folds, the inclusions will start getting incorporated. The inclusions can be done in a lamination process, which is different. I'll do a video on that separately another time, but for this time, we're doing it during stretch and folds. That's good enough. The rest of the cheese will get incorporated in our next set of stretch and folds. So we'll leave it here to sit for 30 more minutes and then one more set of stretch and folds. Back for our final set of stretch and folds, one more set, and then we're going to let it bulk ferment on the counter. We're gonna cover it up, we're gonna let it sit on the counter and bulk ferment at this point for probably 10 hours. And then we'll shape it and we'll put it in the fridge overnight and bake it tomorrow. Our dough is finished fermenting. Look at how much it rose and look at how jiggly it is. It looks amazing. It, for the most part, fell right out of the bowl, which is awesome. This dough was sticky, and I knew from the get-go in the second set of stretch and folds that it was going to be sticky all throughout, which means I could have added more flour at the beginning to balance out the water to flour ratio a little bit better. But hey, everything's a learning process. So I just shaped this into a bowl, basically into a ball of dough, flipped it upside down into the banneton, sprinkled some extra flour on it, popped the shower cap or cover back on it, and put it into the fridge overnight. I pulled it out this morning. It looked great. Flipped it upside down, put it on my silicone baking sling, dough sling, put a quick score into it, and put it in the oven. It actually held together better than I was expecting it to. I baked it at 450 degrees for 20 minutes with the lid on, and then took the lid off for an additional 20 minutes. I took it out when it reached an internal temperature of 205 degrees, and this loaf turned out great.